We also kept all the banking U.S. based, so it's easy to send capital into the company, and there's that confidence over the legal system in the U.S. that comes with it. But then it also gives you that touch of international exposure, and then to commodity and segment that's just not available really in the U.S. You know, we grow a little bit of coffee in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, but it's primarily a crop that's grown overseas, but is the second largest traded commodity in the world next to petroleum. So, an interesting one to have in the portfolio. We're seeing a lot of power behind the business thesis today with respect to inflation protection, AI resistant business. You know, people are not going to stop drinking coffee because of ChatGPT or any of the technological development going on there. So it's an interesting business, and we've continued to grow the downstream sales, really expanding the market for what we offer in the US and now Canada as well.
Excellent. That's great. So now we can kind of get into some of the numbers you don't mind sharing. So where do you see the opportunity for an investor or for someone looking to be a part? And by the way, if you want to learn more about Adam Jason, you can check out greencoffeecompany.com, greencoffeecompany.com. Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth in life starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth in life so you can give more all the way to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swartz. Each and every episode, we are joined by the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, or billionaires, and they share their secrets, insights, and wisdom with us so we can all level up and make a bigger impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He is the co-CEO of the Green Coffee Company, Colombia's largest coffee grower and a U.S. pre-IPO vertically integrated farm-to-cup coffee business with U.S. rights to the iconic Juan Valdez coffee brand. He's a former capital markets attorney at two of the largest U.S. law firms, and he has advised Fortune 500 companies and major investment banks on IPOs, corporate finance, and capital formation before moving to Medellin, Colombia. In 2018, became an entrepreneur and helped to build GCC into a coffee industry leader and so much more. We're going to be talking about agriculture and alternative assets investing. Please welcome to the show with me, Adam Jason. Adam, how are we doing?
Hi, Brett. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Excellent. And for our listeners to get to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. So normally I'd be talking to you from Medellin, Colombia. I flew into Chicago last night. We have our U.S. headquarters here. Originally from Buffalo, New York. You covered my bio pretty well in the description. Formal capital markets attorney, advising companies on IPOs, raising money on the stock market, raising money in private markets, corporate governance, what have you. Worked for some great companies over the years. Worked on the IPO for Yeti Coolers, which might resonate with some of your listeners. I really had a great experience. Decided in 2018, just reached the fork in the road that many from my background and in corporate America generally come to, where you have to decide between, in my case, partner at a law firm, going in-house at one of our clients, or doing something entrepreneurial, just to take the entrepreneurial leap after discovering Colombia back in 2017, kind of on a whim and a twist of fate. So happy to be here. It's kind of been a crazy journey, and now talking to you several years later. So it's exciting to do it.
Fantastic. If people want to learn more about what Adam's up to, go to greencoffeecompany.com, greencoffeecompany.com. So let's dive into the kind of topic at hand, which is investing in alternative agricultural assets. What's the number one secret to doing just that?
You know, it's a certainly an interesting asset class to a lot of investors. In our own case, we saw high demand from particularly folks who had previously heavily deployed into real estate and were looking for additional opportunities that kind of tasted, felt, smelled like real estate, in the sense that they had hard assets behind them, cash flow opportunity, in our case, some international exposure down in Colombia, but people that like that hard asset investing and, you know, want to get things that are off Wall Street, off the stock market, maybe have done well in real estate or looking for some diversity. It's not too much of a stretch for people who want to stay in a similar lane.
Absolutely. That's fascinating. And so you said you stumbled across this opportunity in Colombia, and what about the opportunity was most attractive, and how is it turning out so far?
I came down to Colombia and met my now business partner who was starting the company. It's called the Green Coffee Company. We had the thesis that we could consolidate in a very highly fragmented industry, being Colombian coffee, and sell downstream into developed markets because of the high awareness, especially for US consumers, and the synonymous nature between Colombia and coffee, that we could create a new story by becoming the farmers in Colombia. So my initial role with the business, as you mentioned, I was a capital markets attorney, raised capital for businesses in the U.S. The investor base that we were working with were investors who were looking for that international exposure and opportunities in Colombia specifically. But when we were raising capital from them, the same rules and regulations applied as if we were doing it in the U.S. Right. So whenever you're targeting U.S. investors, all the U.S. securities laws applies, even if the project is primarily based overseas. So as we started to get into the business more, we did the initial capital raise. We started buying land, infrastructure, deploying human and actual capital into the country. We've become the largest producer of coffee in Colombia by about a 3-to-1 ratio between our competition. We now sit at 45 farms. It's about 10,000 acres of farmland and 10 million coffee trees.
Wow, that's incredible growth. And what about just the logistically and or just international law and commerce? Like, what was it like getting all that in order?
Well, we set up everything, and we still have everything set up on the investor side through a Delaware holding company. So we made the Delaware parent company a U.S. company, the owner of everything. We had to set up operating subsidiaries in Colombia. One we have that holds all of our assets, and another one that manages basically the employees, the contracting entity for all the employees that we have in Colombia. But yeah, I mean, it's a learning experience, right? You go down there and you have to figure it out, find guidance from legal counsel who has done things before, hire the right talent on the ground. I mean, it's a daily daily learning still to this day for sure.
Excellent. So let's keep going on here. So when someone's looking at these type of opportunities, and maybe you can explain kind of your model, fund model, or how you set this up, and assessing, I think some of the maybe more challenging things would be overseas and maybe a different industry that I haven't done before, and right. And so you're going alternative, not only out of country, but you're going alternative into maybe something you've never done, like coffee before, right? So most real estate or business people. So what's maybe some things to give them some comfort with trying something new like this?
Well, we wanted to make it as easy as possible in the structuring. So by setting things up in the US, we kept all the laws and regulations US based. We also kept all the banking US based, so it's easy to send capital into the company, and there's that confidence over the legal system in the US that comes with it. But then it also gives you that touch of international exposure, and then to commodity and segment that's just not available really in the US. We grow a little bit of coffee in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, but it's primarily a crop that's grown overseas, but is the second largest traded commodity in the world next to petroleum. So an interesting one to have in the portfolio. We're seeing a lot of power behind the business thesis today with respect to inflation protection, AI resistant business. People are not going to stop drinking coffee because of ChatGPT or any of the technological development going on there. So it's an interesting business, and we've continued to grow the downstream sales, really expanding the market for what we offer in the US and now Canada as well.
Excellent. That's great. So now we can kind of get into some of the numbers you don't mind sharing. So what do you see the opportunity for an investor or for someone looking to be a part? And by the way, if you want to learn more about Adam Jason, you can check out greencoffeecompany.com, greencoffeecompany.com. But what do you think, Adam, is kind of the numbers with someone who might be interested in taking a peek at this?
Yeah, one of the unique aspects of what we're doing that separates us maybe from a traditional real estate investment, for example, is, this is a business enterprise that has the ability to earn multiples on capital. So our goal is to take the company public in the US in the next 18 to 24 months. So we're working right now on potential listing on the major exchanges. We've ramped up revenue in a big way. We're bringing in clients like Target, the national parks, Walgreens, Carnival Cruises, the UFC. We're the official coffee for the Rams and the Chicago Cubs. So we're, looking to do something really big for our investors and take the company public, both as a liquidity mechanism, but also to raise some additional capital to expand our footprint. So right now, the capital that we're raising with the increase in purchase orders and demand coming into the business, we do need working capital and able to in order to fund some of these large purchase orders. So we're giving investors a chance to come in. We've historically raised from high net worth accredited investors in the U.S., folks interested in writing $100,000 checks and above. And we're looking for, a return somewhere in the 3 to 4 times your investment in that IPO scenario is what our projections get us to if we execute well over the time period I mentioned.
Well, that's awesome, Jason. I mean, congratulations on the momentum already, and the ability to exit and get that kind of 3 to 4x returns is great. Let's talk a little about capital gains tax, and the big challenge with people who might exit and want to be able to defer that tax, and or folks that are coming from assets that want to go into a fund and an investment, but they have restrictions because of it's not a 1031 eligible type of transaction. So
Right.
what have you found in your world of all the stuff you've been in? As great ways to defer tax, or maybe some of the biggest frustrations when it comes to like a 1031 exchange?
It's not 1031 eligible. You're gonna if people invest now and let's say they were to sell their shares in 2 years, you get taxed at long-term capital gains rates on the profit of those shares. And one thing that a lot of our investors do though is invest through IRAs and other, let's call them more tax-friendly mechanisms that they've set up for themselves. But ultimately, we don't have the benefits of, let's call it like some of the oil and gas opportunities in the U.S. or accelerated depreciation and these kinds of things. It's, make enough money on the investment and the business for investors where, yeah, there's tax involved, but the upside's so good that, it makes up for it.
Hey, so I got a solution for you that can get the best of both worlds, right? So we've helped companies exit, stock, private, public, businesses, defer tax, cap gains tax, long term on really any asset of any kind, but especially companies that are going to IPO, using it as part of the tax code that allows for basically like an installment sale, but use a trust. The trust buys it and then sells it. Very similar to that. And it's we just did a $70 million exit for a company in the Northeast.
Oh, great.
Yeah, another 40 million out west and across the country deals. And so most people don't know how to do it, right? And so we teach people how to do it. But essentially, like, let's just say you had $1 million of stock in a company, or you wanted to defer $1 million of stock in the company. You can sell that position or assign the interest of the LLC or sell your stock to a trust prior to the sale actually happening, right? So it's kind of pre-planning is an important part of this. But when the stock sells, the trust receives the capital and the stock buys and sells for the same price. So the stock doesn't, or the trust does. So on the stock purchase and sale, it doesn't have a gain. But from your perspective, you receive a promissory note, you become a creditor, right? Like a bank. And so you only pay tax in installments as you receive installment payments back. The best part about it is the funds are typically like a Charles Schwab or whatever financial advisor you want to work with, and they can go back into your own deals. They can go back into your own fund, all tax deferred. So it's kind of like a big IRA that you're setting up. That's very flexible to go in and out of your own deals. Tax deferred, but also just to diversify too. Diversify the wealth, and you'll pay tax, but only as you receive payments. And the second one we have, and it's a big one that people miss, is the ability to eliminate the estate tax. A big challenge with folks, now it's 30 million married, 15 million single, which is good. But above and beyond that, Adam, folks are faced with the death tax, which the stepped up basis doesn't solve for. So we have another strategy that can eliminate that death tax forever on the sale. It needs to happen at the sale, at the closing. But all of the growth is also outside the taxable estate. It's a powerful strategy that, if set up properly, there's no charity, life insurance, or gifting required. Doesn't take up any of your exemptions. Anyways, if people want to learn more, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Let's keep going on just the opportunity and just expanding the business and growing the business. It sounds like you have all these strategic alliances. You're getting into with the right folks. I'm about to go to my friend who works for the NFL. He's worked there for 15 years, and he's in marketing, corporate, different strategic alliances. What have you found the best way to win those large contracts and those deals with these big corporations?
Have to differentiate yourself for sure, right? So we have two channels that we sell through in the US. One is food service and wholesale. So think about restaurant groups, hotels, casinos, cruise lines, any place where coffee is served on site. A lot of those, for our sake, customers of coffee are looking for a new story to tell their end consumers, right? So the people visiting their hotel, visiting their restaurant. One of the big clients of ours is the U.S. National Parks. They want to have a story and suppliers in their own supply chain where the products that they're serving at the parks are consistent with their ethos. So by being the farmers in Colombia, we have complete control over the story, and we do it at scale in a way that nobody else does. Starbucks, Nestle, the other folks that we would know in the market, they're all buying their coffee through middlemen, intermediaries. A lot of hands have touched their coffee. They're not able to say, oh, it came from this farm, and I know that the labor that was used on that farm was compensated appropriately, and all the things that somebody like a national parks or other client would want to say about their supply chain. So what we did is instead of being another coffee company that buys from middlemen and does this, we said we're going to be the farmers. So it's kind of a taste of local, but at scale and of course international, with the origin, Colombia being the most important of any other. Big differentiator there. And then we also, on the other channel of our business is on the branded side. So supermarkets, convenience stores. We have the exclusive rights in the US and Canada for the Juan Valdez coffee brand. So a brand that probably folks 40 and up, Hispanic consumers are going to know and love from years gone by, or from the cultural connection that they would have to the brand. We took over the rights to the brand in 2025. We actually started in 2024, but our relaunch after new packaging, etc., we went live in 2025, and just that brand power has gotten us into about 2,500 doors in the last year. So it's a name that people know, and that's what retailers want, right? They want people to come in their stores, see a product that they recognize, take it off the shelf, and everybody makes a profit along the way.
Excellent. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Connecting the news story, or connecting a story to, because you have the intimate from the ground up production, right? It makes perfect sense. And then, and then also just recognition as well, taking a brand that's been brand awareness and has been a great brand for many years, and combining those two, and then adding you guys' expertise to bring the best of both worlds. We're speaking with Adam Jason, everybody. Adam Jason, you can learn more by going to greencoffeecompany.com. Maybe consider alternative investing, especially if you're a coffee drinker. My wife and I aren't coffee drinkers, Adam. It's funny because both of us, as our family, are total coffee consumers all the time, and people laugh at us. We're like, we just never did it. I don't know. Like, we just never drank it, and we just, or like, how do you survive? But hey, if you're a coffee drinker, try some coffee, and if you love it, I do find that it's important to have certainty of conviction on something that you love, right? And if you love coffee and you can drink coffee, and my brother, they'll they'll travel and they'll come back for my mom. They'll give her gifts of coffee from the different places they go to, and it's a unique experience, and it helps people to connect with that part of the world of wherever it came from. So very, very cool. What haven't I asked you so far that you want to just share before we go to the lightning round?
I think it's interesting you note that like actually the non-coffee drinkers are in the minority. It's an interesting stat, I think, that in the last 48 hours in the US, 67% of all people, all age ranges, kids, adults, everybody, have had a cup of coffee, which is actually more than, and I always find this so strange, more than the number of people who have had just a regular glass of water. So I think coffee's here to stay. It's definitely a love and probably an addiction, a morning starter for so many people. So it's that's a good stat to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Is it
great stat.
sticking around?
That's a great stat. Yeah, excellent. Well, let's rock and roll. Let's jump into the lightning round. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget? Make sure to tell yourself to do.
Gosh. Not answering this in a lightning way. Um, stay flexible, stay open to opportunities. Uh, when I was 20, I never thought I would find Colombia, and it was a life changing moment. So follow some of your instincts sometime.
Love it. Question number two. Number one book you've recommended the most or gifted in the past year?
I like Titan, the Rockefeller biography.
Excellent. Question number three. What are you most curious about right now?
Leadership.
Next question. What's your number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Humility.
Next question. Love that, by the way. AI. Number one tool you're using and the best way that you and your company are using AI.
We are using AI right now to decipher good coffee from bad coffee at origin in Colombia to make sure we're bringing the best stuff that we have.
Fantastic. Last question, and we'll wrap it up. After all your success and everything you've built, how do you best keep a mindset of stewardship over ownership?
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, my voice is kind of, because I have a little bit of working on this cough thing. So after all your success, having all the people you've helped, how do you best keep a mindset of stewardship over ownership? And the idea is that, the way that we define it is, stewardship is we're here for a brief moment on this side of earth, and we have an opportunity to use our gifts and talents that we've been given to be a blessing and help to others. And it's an idea that what we've been given is to help and bless others, our team, our family. Ownership tends to be on the side of, hey, it's a little more, it's a bit more short-sighted, and it's a more, reflecting in versus reflecting out.
I'm fortunate to have found something that I love doing. I think when I'm in a good place mentally, it's good for the team, it's good for my wife, for my daughter. So, doing what I enjoy on a daily basis is almost a way of stewardship in the sense that good things come with it if I'm working positively and living a life I enjoy.
I love it. Hey, Adam, Jason, it's been it's been a pleasure to get to know you and to dive into the coffee business and alternative investing. I can tell obviously it's your passion and it's your calling at this season of your life, and you're making a huge growth. That's so exciting to see. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, perhaps even maybe if they're accredited investors and want to consider investing with you and your company, what's the best place for them to find you?
Perfect. Thank you, Brett. As I mentioned, we're raising some money to fill some of the purchase orders that we're getting in the US. So we're taking a couple $1 million of additional capital. If you want to find me, the best place is on LinkedIn. If you message me there directly, I'll set you up with our investor relations team and get you all the information you would need to make an investment decision.
Fantastic. Thank you, Adam, Jason. And also want to thank all of our listeners for listening or watching another episode of the Build It to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels. And we're on this journey with you to scale it from millions to billions so we can give more all the way to help MVPs, the most vulnerable people. My name is Brett Source. And I want to encourage you to take action today. Of course, if you're interested in investing and considering what Adam Jason has to check out, find him on LinkedIn. And if you have a large exit that you are considering, what your options are for capital gains tax exit planning, do not forget the book that we have called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. You spent 10,000 hours building the business. Why not spend 5 hours building a plan to have an extra 20 to 50% working for you? Also, the ability to eliminate estate tax, build your wealth, keep momentum in your favor. Just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com or go to Amazon to pick up the book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. We appreciate everyone listening or watching out there, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye now.